This summer's travel plans could be facing turbulence as European airports warn of a potential jet fuel shortage linked to the ongoing tensions in the Middle East, with reports of rising prices, possible flight cancellations and disruption looming from as early as next month. There are growing concerns about what it could mean for holidaymakers and for regions like Clare that depend heavily on tourism. So are we jetting off as planned, or could this crisis ground both travellers and local businesses' hopes for the season ahead? Joining me to explore this further are the Ennis Travel Counsellor Gearóid Mannion and Chair of the Clare Tourism Advisory Forum and co-owner of Hotel Woodstock, Séan Lally. And thanks to both of you for being with us on the show this morning. And Gearóid, I might start with yourself. I guess from your point of view, are you already seeing signs of disruption, be it cancellations, price increases, or just nervous customers contacting you wondering about their plans and whether they were going to go awry?
Well, there's no widespread price increases just yet. It's fair to say that there may be some nervous customers, all right. We're all a bit nervous, waiting to see what happens in Iran in particular. So far, there haven't been, any of the cancellations that have been predicted that might come further down the road. It may be likely that, you might see a situation where the frequency of some routes might be cut back. A situation where you might have, 7 flights a week might be cut back to 5 flights a week or 6 flights a week. Maybe not the end of the world. Hopefully it won't be too severe. Shannon is holding up very well, which is great to see. It's been performing very strongly in recent years, and hopefully that will continue long into the future, both inbound and outbound.
Oh, so in terms of the fares, if it is a lessening of routes, that's obviously going to discommode some people, but it's not a massive crisis. But could airfare spike if the conflict continues, Gearóid? And if so, how quickly would that feed through to holidaymakers here?
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that yet, but you're right. If the conflict continues, there is no doubt that it will lead to fuel surcharges and higher airfares. That's what we're all hoping we can avoid in the coming weeks. The airlines, the likes of your Michael O'Leary's and others, have said that steady as she goes for the moment, but if the conflict continues, for another couple of weeks, then you will see a problem with supply and price of jet fuel in May. There's no doubt about it. So it's kind of fingers crossed as we go, and hoping that it won't come to that, hoping we can get an end to the conflict as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's what I think most of the world is hoping for, Sean, but it's hard to know. Donald Trump has been saying it'll be done in 2 to 3 weeks for pretty much since the start of this conflict. And we know Clare relies heavily on inbound tourism. How concerned are you and others within the sector at what could be coming down the tracks, given this looks like a conflict that could rumble on for some time yet?
Well, I would agree with Gearóid. I would hope that nothing like this would happen, that there would be a peaceful resolution and things get back to normal. But we know in tourism that we're always facing some challenge, whether it's COVID, ash clouds, financial crises or foot and mouth, and we're very resilient and very adaptable. I always take the view of being a glass half full. When you look around us, what we have here in County Clare, between the cliffs, Loophead, Bunratty, Lough the Burn, and everything around Ennis and the traditional music and that type of stuff, we are in a very good position to take advantage of domestic tourism if people do decide not to go away and take a holiday in Ireland or take a few short breaks in Ireland. We're well positioned. When you look at the motorway access, road, rail and all that network, we're in the centre of town, we're close to the main population bases and the array of tourism attractions we have. Lots of our tourism businesses and hotels and bars and restaurants are family run. They know the value of tourism. There's no such thing as price gouging on our doorstep, and I think we're probably well positioned if it is a thing that people switch from international travel to domestic travel. We are very well positioned for that.
Yeah, Gearóid, you talked about maybe some routes you might see, 5 flights a week as opposed to 7 flights a week. Ryanair suggested it may cancel up to 5 to 10% of flights. How significant could that be for people planning summer travel, given a lot of us use Ryanair?
Yes, indeed, particularly out of Shannon. Ryanair, great services. There's no doubt the people who have already booked, we're all keeping our fingers crossed that none of those flights will be cancelled. But if that happens, generally speaking, Ryanair and any other airline will offer an alternative date or indeed a full refund. And that allows us and the customer to, shift their plans and hopefully still get to go on their holidays, mostly to the same destination, but if necessary, to a different destination. We're blessed out of Shannon with the number of not just the number of destinations that we have, but the frequency of the destinations that have built up over the past number of years. And in fairness to the folks at Shannon Airport, they've been doing a fantastic job on this quietly over the past couple of years. I recall for many years when things weren't going so well with ash clouds and the likes of things that Sean just mentioned there going against us, there was criticism of Shannon Airport, but I think they should get praise where praise is due, and the past number of years they've done a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think that'd be fair to say, Sean. I mean, when you're dealing with unforeseen events like the ash cloud and indeed this current war in the Middle East, they're difficult situations for airports to handle, and I suppose you have to respond quickly and deal with it as best you can, and they do.
It's a fantastic airport. We're so lucky to have it in our doorstep. Like I've seen time and time again, people are shocked and they park their car. They walk in, they go through security, and it's literally 15 minutes from the car park to, getting through the security side of it and ready to board their flight. We are so lucky to have Shannon Airport on our doorstep. I think it's very, very important that we use it where feasibly possible, even if you have to take a connecting flight in another hub airport to get to wherever you're going. We need to support Shannon Airport as much as we can, because the more people that fly through Shannon Airport, it means the more flights they can actually put in, and it underpins the airport. So it is so important to us, in and out, regardless of which way you go. I think we're just so lucky to have it in our doorstep. And we've seen the growth there, as Gearóid mentioned, over the last number of years. And when you look at some of the events that are coming up over next year, between the Walker Cup later this year in September in Lahinch, which is the biggest amateur golf tournament in the world, the Irish Open in Trumpton in September as well, and then the following year, the Ryder Cup. The level of interest in that is just off the Richter scale, and I believe from talking to some of the people involved, they're well ahead of where they were in previous years in terms of sales, because of the whole US-Irish interest, and there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, there is, Gearóid, and I don't want to take a glass half empty approach. We all hope that things are well sorted by summer, or definitely by the time of the Ryder Cup next year. But if it turned into anything approaching a Russia-Ukraine type conflict, that would be disastrous, wouldn't it? You think of the number of US visitors and from elsewhere who would come in for the Ryder Cup if travel proves to be prohibitive or difficult to any degree. The local economy would really suffer.
I don't think it's going to come to that, Alan, now, and I think you'll want to go away with your glass half empty viewpoint. Sean,
maybe I like the misery.
The glass is just slightly more than half full. Thank you very much. There's plenty positives, to be honest, and we've mentioned Shannon, but just the Dublin airport situation, we do expect that the cap will be lifted there, and that will provide extra flights and new routes. And that will help the country in general, including the Midwest. There's no doubt about it. It will also, give us some of the new routes that we've been waiting for and hoping for. And we're also hopeful that on the inbound side, that the trend of very high temperatures in certain parts of Europe during July and August will lead to more Europeans coming to our lovely green, fair and cool island on the west of Europe. There's hope that there will be increased frequencies on some of the European routes, and that inbound tourism will benefit from that. And, the Midwest will get its fair share of that, hopefully. So I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, that point that Sean was making earlier on about domestic tourism, you think even if international travel were to become more expensive or uncertain, we could see a return to the staycation trend, and Clare has a lot obviously on our doorstep that could attract people who maybe are from around the country who'd plan to go to Spain or Portugal, wherever it might be, and we could be their very good plan B.
Yeah, definitely. The staycation situation will definitely help if the oil crisis disimproves and the situation gets as bleak as you were pointing out there a while ago. But I just don't think it'll come to that. I think the end game is in sight. There will be the knock-on cost of fuel, including jet fuel, and that will have a knock-on on prices. We don't know how significant that will be yet, but I think we'll bounce back just like we've bounced back from all the other setbacks that we mentioned earlier.
Is that of some comfort, Sean, to you and others within the tourism industry within the county, that even if foreign tourism is impacted to some degree, that there is enough of an offering here to be able to turn to the domestic market and attract a lot of people there, even if it didn't make up for any potential international loss, it would still buffer it somewhat?
Yeah, the international tourists are very important, in particular the US tourists, and there is a history in the past that, if there is wars going on, that they tend not to travel because of the uncertainty of it, but it is a safety net. The domestic tourism market to us in County Clare is extremely important. We've seen that when we were coming out of COVID, when people started to travel again, the huge upsurge in domestic tourism and Irish people discovering what's on their doorsteps, and in a lot of cases for the first time, and there was very, very positive feedback on that. I just want to go back to something there that Gearóid mentioned. The Dublin Airport and the fact that we still have a cap on our national airport is the most nonsensical thing ever, and the fact that it's still there. The government have committed to getting rid of that. They committed before the last election to getting rid of it. Here we are, I don't know how long they're in government now, almost 2 years later, and we still have a cap on our national airport. We are an island nation. It is just beyond belief that we would have a cap. We're the laughing stock of Europe and the world in aviation when it comes to this, and it amazes me it's taking so long to get rid of that cap, because I see time and time again, obviously I want Shannon number one always, and whether it's flying in or out, but the amount of people I meet here staying in the hotel that have actually flown in through Dublin and flying out through Shannon while they're exploring the Wild Atlantic Way has been huge. So we are missing out on those customers additional customers that would have come in through Dublin and fly out through Shannon. And I think that's a kind of a big drawback, because the more routes we have coming into the country, the more potential tourists and business we can actually get coming into Ireland. So it's very frustrating that they've committed to getting rid of it, and yet it's still there. And when you see US airlines actually banding together, going to the US government, proposing that Ireland would be restricted because of the fact that they still have this cap on, is just nonsensical in my eyes.
Yeah, Gearóid, that's an interesting point that Sean makes. When people talk about the cap at Dublin Airport, I'm sure, supporters of airports like Shannon would say, rather than lifting it and allowing more people to fly into Dublin, why not try and get some of those people to come to Shannon? But there are people who come into the country through Dublin and leave through Shannon, so Shannon is getting business that way.
Yes, and in fairness, there is a lot of demand for Dublin, and lots of people who come to Ireland. Dublin is part of their plans. There's no doubt about it. The Wild Atlantic Way in the West and the Midwest has fantastic attractions, but your average foreign tourist who wants to come to Ireland and do Ireland, as it were, they want to come to a couple of different places, 3 or 4, depending on their overall duration of their stay. And in fairness, Dublin is one of those places. We have to recognise that. That's the reality of it. Dublin has a lot of history and charm going with it, and they do want to go there. So, it isn't fair to just say, oh, well, let them fly into, Shannon or Knock or Kerry or Cork. They want to come to Dublin and see Dublin and then move on from there. And as Sean says, probably fly home from Shannon. That's fine. We'll take 50% of the business if we can get it. But we can't just say, shift the routes from a busy Dublin to Shannon. It's not that simple, unfortunately. The demand for Dublin is there, and the sooner the cap is lifted, the better for everybody, in fairness.
I do have to wrap up proceedings in just a moment, but both of you, certainly your glass is more full than mine is, and we can all do with a bit of optimism this morning. Gearóid, is your sense that it will be short-term disruption? What advice would you give to people planning holidays over the next few months? Proceed as they were going to, or just be monitoring the situation?
keep an eye on things, keep making plans, check availability, get your quotes, keep thinking about it so that you're ready to book when things settle down. Whereas if you leave your planning until a month's time or 3 weeks' time when it's all over, you'll be starting from a low base, and it might take you a while to get things sorted and get things booked. There's plenty of availability out there and plenty of routes. Fly from Shannon and enjoy your holidays.
Okay, we do have to leave it there. My thanks to both of you. The Ennis Travel Counsellor, Gearóid Mannion there, and Chair of the Clare Tourism Advisory Forum and co-owner of Hotel Woodstock, Séan Lally.